would there be video surveillance of your project so that at any time the community wants to evaluate if you are proceeding as you say tonight that you will be, that we can evaluate through video surveillance?
I was asked a similar question today in the meeting. I don't know that that's something that I'm not prepared to answer right now, although it's something that we would consider. I do. The records that we keep that will be constantly generated as we're operating are available. I mean, there's public documentation. DEP gets copies of them. We maintain copies of them, and I would certainly consider sitting down and finding out what would work for the community and that standpoint. Now, the plant is a secure area. I mean, it's due to the fact what we're doing there is making electricity, and there's equipment that doesn't need to be messed with or played with by any children or anything like that. So there is a fence completely around the facility. There is controlled access, it's security, so it's not open to the public. But as far as entertaining public on the site and the members of the community, wherever they would come from, we would certainly welcome that. We would just need to schedule it so that it represented the same.
In terms of removal of the ash, we won't be there at the time you do it, so we would like to know that it's being done.
I think we can come up with some solution.
I think one of the things.
One comment I'll make that would address a little bit about Ben is that the way the electrical grid system works is what's being consumed always matches is what's being produced at the same time. We do not store electricity. It's impossible to store at these levels. So when it's kind of hard to I mean, I still have a hard time understanding it. A lot of the times you think that when the lights in this room went on, there was an increase in production somewhere in that system to match what you just did by flipping that switch. So the demand for base load power, meaning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is always there. And biomass is a base load operation. It's not a peaking or intermittent type of operation. It wants to operate all the time.
We're going to now move to the whole issue of process and responsibility, project status. We're going to look at the FSU Campus Master Plan process, site selection, how it was selected, the process and the options that were considered, the environmental permitting issues, which Al has already talked a little bit about, but I think we want to get a little more into that. Just what is DEP's role, what is the city's role, what is FSU's role, and public notice. So let's start, Mark. If you can talk to us about why FSU became involved with the biomass project and how, from FSU's perspective, the site was selected.
Okay. I'm going to give you a little bit of ancient history.
And remember time, brevity. Okay.
Anybody who's been around Tallahassee for a long time is familiar with a piece of property that we call the Southwest Campus. For years we called it the farm. It's really the property that's just right across the street from us, where the FSU golf course is and Innovation Park and that property. Years ago there was a road, Roberts Avenue, that was put in that severed the biomass site from the rest of the Southwest Campus. And in the 23 years that I've been at FSU, we've looked at that particular piece of property for utilization. But frankly, it's a very difficult piece of property to utilize in the fact that it's bordered by railroad tracks, it's inaccessible essentially to vehicular traffic. There really wasn't a demand for academic programs on it. So in a sense, it became kind of fallow land. It just kind of sat there. I think it's a bit fortuitous that along came an opportunity through the biomass project to utilize that piece of property for something other than basically a side yard for a rail switching station, which is what it's been for a number of years. 4 years ago this month, the university's Board of Trustees adopted a previous version of the university university's campus master plan. At that time, that master plan only considered two campuses. The main campus, not the southwest campus, or the farm area, but the main campus where the stadium in Westcott building is, and our Panama City branch campus. Later that year, we were approached by the city and by the university administration with the notion of including in the university's master plan the southwest campus of the farm. For years, we had looked at the farm property, the southwest campus, as an opportunity to offload some non-essential functions from the main campus. Real quickly, anybody who's familiar with FSU, we have the smallest main campus in the state university system. We have one of the highest enrollments, and by far, we have the most densely populated campus in the system. We are basically land strapped. So for years, we've been thinking about looking for opportunities to offload functions. When we were approached by the city, it seemed like a good idea to us to go ahead and look at the southwest campus with the same long-term focus that we've been looking at the main campus and the Panama City campus. So in the fall of that year, we began the next iteration of the campus master plan. That plan was substantially completed in 2007. We conducted the first of two required public hearings. These are required by state statutes. We took out a quarter-page advertisement in the Tallahassee Democrat on July 26, 2007. July 19th, we conducted the public hearing in Innovation Park in Research Building A. We put up yard signs leading into Innovation Park to anybody unfamiliar with how to get there, or the plan itself, or the hearing itself. After that public hearing, we then distributed copies of the master plan to city governments and county governments, both Leon and Bay County, again remembering the Panama City campus. We also sent it to just about every state local agency that you can think of, DEP, DOT, Game and Fresh Water, the list goes on and on. And we asked them to review the master plan. It was substantially completed, but not finally completed. And we gave them 90 days, and we said, review our plan and give us back questions. We frankly only heard from about three groups. We heard from DOT, we heard from DCA, and we received about 15 pages of comments from Wayne and his colleagues in the city of Tallahassee. We took the remainder of that year and we went through those comments and we tried to reach an understanding. Where necessary, we amended the master plan. And in May 20th of last year, and I remember because it was my birthday, we conducted the second public hearing on the master plan. On June 13th, we then went to the Florida State Board of Trustees with the plan and asked for their review and adoption, and they did do that. The statutes that allow universities to develop master plans also require us to enter into development agreements with host and local affected governments. We actually began our discussions with the city of Tallahassee before the adoption with the idea of looking at what impact does FSU's future plans on the main campus and the southwest campus have on city and municipally supplied services, things like water, sewer, stormwater. And it all essentially boiled down to one thing, traffic. And anybody who's been near the campus in September of any year knows what impact 40,000 students have on our road system. If you don't believe me, they come by spring break and there's hardly any impact. So clearly, the impacts that were identified by our development plans focused on traffic. And to make a long story short, we did a lot of traffic modeling. Our consultants with the City of Tallahassee Road Management, we looked at road impacts, roads that would be impacted. We looked at proposed solutions to those problems. We identified costs, and then it boils down to something called fair share. We agreed on what it would take, theoretically, to offset those road impacts. And it all boils down to about $6.3 million. The agreement that's before the City Commission right now, our Board of Trustees approved it in November, but we then took it to the City Commission. They had the first public hearing, of course, last month. We'll have another one later this month. And what it basically asserts is that we agreed that for the $6.3 million that we will pay the city, that for the next 5 years, the development that's outlined in the master plan is deemed to be concurrent. And in doing so, we pay our fair share of that road. What the city does with that $6.3 million, I'm not really sure, because they're not bound to that traffic analysis. However, we've worked with good faith with the city on trying to identify suggested